Let me start by presenting a few examples as to why we are talking about the subject, why we're talking about the 21st century university education, but specifically why are we including the word disruption to that. I'm going to start giving you a few examples. This thing I have in my pocket, I'm going to take it out and then show it to you. You can see it. You have any idea what this is? This is called a slide rule. This was a big part of my early years of education, especially with my math and science courses. I could do any calculations with this slide rule, logarithmic, exponentials, trigonometric, whatever. It's amazing, isn't it? I thought this was fantastic. That's all I needed. I took my logbook, as you have no idea what I'm talking about, and threw it away and said, this is fantastic. This is a great disruption. I don't think that I will need anything else. Until somebody came out with a handheld calculator. I said, oh gosh, this is beautiful. It is disrupting this one. So soon, a year after, nobody touched this, but I kept mine so that I could show my kids and to you and the others. And after a while, handheld calculators became one of the standard elements of any student studying in any of the STEM disciplines. I don't see any handheld calculators now. I don't use it myself either. I just use my phone. It has everything I need. So I paid, I'm not exaggerating, close to $300 for my first scientific calculator. Now it's right in here. So one thing came after another and another and disrupted that. I'll go back to the 11th century. This is the known date that Chinese came up with what we call a gunpowder. It's the first known form of propulsion in humankind. That enabled us to do fantastic things, including mining and construction and those things, because it created significant explosive power that was not available in any other forms. Everybody thought this was fantastic and went on using it for centuries after other forms of propulsions or explosives were invented, like dynamite. So one thing came up as a huge element of disruption, enabled us to do a number of things, had only certain length of shelf time, and something else came and replaced it. And the third example I'm going to use, this is very significant, is the steam engine. Around, like, not more than a couple of hundred years ago, James Watt came out with the first steam engine, patented it. Do you know how powerful it was? 10 horsepower. They thought here it is. This is the beginning of the first industrial revolution. You know what it disrupted? It disrupted humankind's reliance on water power, because up until that, if you needed a power other than human power or animal power to cause rotary motion, you needed to go to a water source and use that one. So that they gave us the independence from water sources. So unbelievable disruptions. The point I'm trying to make here, if you go back 5,000 years, 10,000 years, 100,000 years, a few million years back, you will see that a lot of, especially technology-based innovations, invention, and disruptions, they've been happening in the past, I could just summarize them as they've been happening in the past century. And if you do the projection, if you do the trajectory, you will see the pace of disruptions keeps increasing. Things are being disrupted so fast. And where do you fit in? Because you're in a world now that things are happening in a way that probably something like my slide rule that, wow, fantastic to have, won't even be mentioned anymore. I had my first pager. I thought it was fabulous that I had a pager. I asked our students, I said, you know what a pager is? I have no idea what a pager is, and I cannot see any use of this in this day and age. So where do you see yourself as young, brilliant minds? You must be, you're here, you're interested in making a difference. How do you fit in there? What are your thoughts? So you will think of two things. What are your expectations from yourself as a student, as somebody with aspirations and dreams and vision? And what will be your expectations from, say, predominantly the educational institutions that you are now part of? So those are two important questions. What I'm going to try to portray in the next few minutes, and I'm not going to take a long time because I'm really interested in dialogue with you, so I'll like to take some time to listen to your questions and comments. But what will be the kind of environment that we will have instead of just accidental disruptions in innovation, a systemic and much larger scale disruptions happening? Because as I said, this is going to become a norm of our society in whichever direction go, whether it's economic, whether it's social, whether it's technological, they will keep happening. And where do you see yourself fitting it? We are looking for an environment that there are a lot of questions. We're looking for an environment that these questions are asked freely. We're looking for an environment that you're actually encouraged to be really curious and ask questions. In other words, we want you to question the status quo of everything. We're looking for an environment where there is diversity in thought, diversity in skills, diversity in disciplines, that all coming together. And we're looking for an environment where it is fertile with innovative thinking, and it is an environment where the word risk is so common, it's so natural, that you will never ever be afraid of taking it. And who are the people who will like to be in that environment? Of course, it's you. And what will that environment look like? In my world, that is the environment of the 21st century university, where all these things are happening. That you are, as a brilliant young mind, as a student, you're not confined to a certain one-dimensional exchange of teaching and learning process that only takes place within the boundaries of what we call a university campus. We want to expand this. We want to integrate it and incorporate it with many other things, one of which is your experiential part of your education. Whether you're studying the highest level of Bessel functions in your math class, or whether you're studying the history of 16th century Europe, you need to be able to connect them with what are you going to do with those? What are they good for? If you're interested in robotics, if you're interested in many forms of artificial intelligence, you will know that you really have a good understanding of that Bessel function. If you're thinking about many other aspects of the society, and we should, and we need to understand where we have come from, what our societies, what do they look like? For example, how can we talk about autonomous vehicles that will create so much energy and excitement and convenience, say, and also help us with many other things, but at the same time, how could we just say that this is absolutely fantastic when a good part of the world have no access to drinking water or water for irrigation? When we know that there is still a significant element of access to clean water, food, and all those things. When we know that we are absolutely, there's no shred of doubt that one of our biggest challenges is, how do we deal with the climate change? What are our roles and responsibilities in doing that? So everything is so interconnected that it is impossible for us to say that, okay, this is the direction we're going. If we went in that direction, and everything is going to be great. So this is the part that I think it will be so important for your education at the 21st century university, that you cannot allow yourself to be just guided by one single source, whether it's a textbook or just one person. You need to make sure that it is multidimensional and you connect it with many others. At the same time, you are in an environment that a sociologist and a mechanical engineer, an astrophysicist, and they're all working in areas that have some common elements, and you are right in the middle of that intersection of those common element. What else will you be looking for? You're looking for an environment where things are changing so rapidly, and what will be the fuel to really sustain that change? The only thing I can think of is our curiosity. We are curious about things. We turn our curiosity in the form of organized research, and we do look into things. We try to understand things better from scientific perspectives or societal perspectives or economical perspectives, and try to bring absolutely new knowledge. And if you're in an environment that you're exposed to that new knowledge, you are actually being taught by people who are in the process of creating that new knowledge. This is an essential part of, again, the kind of institution we're talking about. And while all of these are happening, something else is happening. What you are doing right now, you're not just learning from your textbooks. Push those aside, okay? You're learning from all kinds of things. While you're learning, your learning is transforming. You started perhaps with trying to find a new solution to an old problem. And in due process, you allow yourself to be challenged by something much, much bigger than the old problem you were trying to solve. What would that be? Let me give you an example. Kidney disease, acute kidney disease or renal failure is quite a significant medical problem, and the only way one can cope with it, yes, medication, drugs, they will all be helpful, but ultimately one will have to go through a process called dialysis. That person is attached to a dialysis machine that works as a kidney. It's a kidney, and then frequently, perhaps once a week, you have to go and attach yourself to that machine and, get your dialysis done. So a lot of people, hundreds and hundreds of engineers, scientists, medical professionals have been working on making dialysis machines more efficient, smaller, work faster, and all of those things. These are all good questions. It's a big problem. It's a big, old problem. So while you're working on it, and we had some brilliant students and researchers working on it, one decided that, do I really need to be stuck with this dialysis machine? Why can't I think outside of the box? Why can't I think something differently? It may sound ridiculous. People who have spent hundreds of hours on this dialysis machine may think that, well, I'm nuts. It was that thought that brought nanotechnology, biotechnology, computer science, synthetic medicine, all of those things together, and result is an artificial kidney of just this size. And this is what they're working on. So this is the beauty of being courageous, being very curious, and be able to think outside of the box. Do I really need to do this? So the issue there is, for any one of us, this is a well-defined problem. I had so many people ahead of me working on this, and I'm going to do something really significant and add another major step there. which is not a bad thing at all, and we'll do this. But somebody will say that, I am not going to follow this pathway. I'm going to establish my own. And this is the step one takes. So how does it happen? Again, I'll bring it back to the environment, which we are so familiar with, that I keep describing as a 21st century university. This is where it happens that you have the support, you have the intellectual power, you have various intersection of various disciplines, and most of all, you have the culture enabling you to take risks. Chances of failure are very, very high, but the success is enormously, enormously rewarding. So later on, you'll hear from my colleague, Professor Larry Smith. He's going to talk about pain and glory and success and all of those things. This is where it is, that there are challenges, that we will be facing those, and it's up to us what to do about them. So the next thing is, how do you take a step further? When you reach a point, our colleagues at OpenText will be there watching you with their open arms and say, well, come work with us. And some of you will do that, and you will make some fantastic contributions. Some of you will say, look, I have an idea. My idea is connected to dreams. And how do I then go forward? So if you're in an idea, and this is something that I'm extremely proud of having at the University of Waterloo, the first part, that experiential education, connecting, integrating with, is also something that the University of Waterloo started as disruption. We disrupted the whole higher education sector by starting as a cooperative education university. But now, while this goes, I'm proud to say that this is happening at a scale that we are the largest in the world. At the same time, creating an environment for our young, brilliant minds that you have an idea, you have aspirations, you have a dream, you are really, really excited about disrupting something, here, come try it. We have something called Velocity that students can go and get their startups right out of there. So if you follow, there are a number of examples, go from Desire to Learn, to Kick, to Maya Vision, to Thalmic Labs. That's how they all started. Right now, there's about 120 of such startups originated from that Velocity organization that enables students, I underline, students. You are studying, you still need to pass that psychology, whatever course. You'd still need to pass your strength of materials course, but it is giving you an opportunity to go and test your ideas. You are putting you together with a group of like-minded peers that you are not just dealing with the technical problems. You are saying, if I make this better advanced, more advanced, how do I get this into a finished product so that I can sell this thing? Somebody will benefit from my product, but at the same time, economically, I will be also in a very good position. So, as you can see, this is a very deep subject. This is very near and dear to my heart. And these are something that are already happening. They have been happening at my institution, but it is also fair to say that many other institutions are trying to be there. I put the question back to you. You are familiar with these kind of things. You have to ask that question to yourself. How do I want to get on with my career, with my life? This is one of the alternatives that I can use. And I'm so glad that I had this opportunity to talk to you this morning. Time flies by, so I will stop here. I thank you for your attention. I thank you for being here. You could have been somewhere else doing other things. You decided to be here, and I hope that the time you spent here was worth it and it was valuable. I will stop here and open the floor up for questions, and happy to be able to try to answer your questions. Thank you.
If you have questions, please come down, or I can meet you halfway.
I always say that if whoever asks the first question will get 3-4 extra marks for the midterms.
Hey, so this is I just want to just hear what you're going to say about this. What would you say if, with regards to disruptive, technology or, following your own dreams and whatever? So at the rates that, things are going down, it's very fast, right? And there are still some people that believe that we haven't, fully even understood the technology that exists, and yet there are, so many creative minds that are trying to start their own venture. So what would you say, that's sort of discouraging in regards to starting your own, following, your own passion or whatever, right? So how would you respond to, something like that, someone says, okay, disruptive technology, right? There's so many disruptive technologies that they work, they don't even work, like self-driving cars, it's not really finalized yet. We haven't even finalized cars that drive with human beings yet. And we're talking of self-driving cars, we're talking of flying cars. Is it, sometimes, I don't know if you get my question now, but sometimes, it's sort of discouraging, if you get what I mean. So how would you respond to something like that?
If you think about it, I can tell you that it's going to happen. I don't know when. Some of them will happen soon that I hope we'll be able to see. Again, I go back to this and this. When Mike Lazaridis was an undergraduate student at the University of Waterloo, he had this vision, mobile texting, and then was the birth of BlackBerry that revolutionized the entire communication world, mobile communication. Before that, I could have never, ever dreamt that I could be talking to somebody else, the other part of the world, or somebody will send me an email. I used to write letters and wait for an answer for a month by the time my letter reached that person and I received response. And I'm not that old, guys, So things happening. Martin Laforest, who will come after me, will talk about quantum computing. I studied quantum mechanics in a very curious way. It was good. It was cool to talk about quantum mechanics, in certain circles. And you see, it's right in front of my eyes. I see them. It's happening. And it will happen from quantum sensors to encryption to computers. So we're talking about real disruption. They are happening right in front of our eyes. Artificial intelligence is not an abstract subject. It is going to be a very important part of our existence. And it's our, again, responsibility how we will deal with this. And it's your responsibility to ensure that while artificial intelligence is going to be disruptive for certain elements of human existence in terms of jobs and everything, you will be working on things that cannot be done by algorithms or robots or artificial intelligence, that we're still needed at the forefront of that disruption. So I understand your concerns, but I think we need to understand that whether we want it or not, but we should be ready that it's going to happen.
Hi, my name is Frobisher. My question, I'm in software engineering, and I was wondering, what do you think is the biggest disruption right now in technology?
There's a whole bunch of them. I tried to touch on a number of things. Quantum computing, quantum information science, to me, is absolutely there. That will be coupled by something we call synthetic biology, okay? Something will connect the two of them and bring something we call as regenerative medicine. So the form of, first it was just for telecommunication applications, and all of a sudden it becomes more than that. It becomes supplies, services, and how do we, I just gave you 3, there could be more. My goal is, how do I channel them into tackling some very, very, very important global challenges like I mentioned, water, food security, the environment. You can have as many fantastically artificially intelligent machines and everything, if you're not able to breathe the clean air, if half of the, or good part of the world do not have access to clean drinking water, and if we are not able to sustain this quality of life for everybody, then our scientific, technological advances are not really reaching to everybody. So those are some of the areas that we will be working on, or people will be working on. What excites me the most of how they're coming together. Our world is not going to be just one or two dimensional anymore in terms of our learning and our curiosity. We will see many, many disciplines coming together to solve these global level problems. And this is where I see as, again, quantum is going to be the norm of computational power at one point. Artificial intelligence is going to be absolutely there, coupled with all other elements that we will see coming from the biology, medicine, human side.
I have a question in terms of education at the university.
I'm trying to
Thank
find
you.
where you are. Okay, hi.
So mostly for teaching undergrads, where do you think is this balance between way of thinking and skills? So basically, analytical thinking versus teaching skills. And do you think it even makes sense to teach skills now when things are changing so quickly?
Mm-hmm. A good question. First, to clarify, I'm talking about any levels of education, undergraduate or graduate. But the undergraduate part is very important because for it to go escalate up to the graduate level, you have to have that kind of experience at the undergraduate level. Skills, I'm interpreting your question, skills, you're referring to really hands-on ability to do things. Again, I'll go back to our co-op education model that you really see, I mean, you are at an institution that academic excellence is the norm. There is no doubt about it. So it's, and with tremendous full respect and appreciation to any vocational schools, this is a very, 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 at the very highest level of academic excellence. So you're doing that, you're exposed to that, then you go out and see the actual thing happening. This is a significant added advantage. So this is where you start developing your skills. You're not just seeing it, but you're able to touch it. You're able to actually work on it. Doesn't mean that you're going to end up doing it, but you really know what it takes to do that. When I was my first undergraduate summer job, I went to Switzerland. I worked for this company that manufactured big hydroelectric turbines. And our first day, there was about a couple of dozens of interns there sitting. The chief engineer comes, says, well, suppose you have this big, huge turbine order from this country, and you're going to design this and ship it over to the site. What will be the first design factor you will consider? And we tried to answer this question for half an hour like crazy, and we were exhausted, we were demoralized, said, well, we don't know anything. So, well, the first thing you will do is get the map out between our plant and the site and figure out the elevation of all the underpasses, so you're not going to build something that won't pass under that bridge. It was the experience of a lifetime for me. And these are the kind of things that I try to simplify that answer, but it is the kind of skills that you will be able to incorporate it to your education. Then you're not just thinking about this in one dimension, but in various dimensions. That's what the skills part will help you. One
Yeah,
last
sure.
one, or?
I'm sure we could answer questions all day. We've been asked to go ahead and transition.
Okay. Thank you very much again.